I've clicked on a segment over the weekend of one of these shows, and Matt got talking about how we're all forced into existence because it's impossible for us to decide for ourselves. It's always the choice of our parents. Everybody knows this, and well, it's just reality. And I decided to write up a little script, which I'll be reading from in about a minute. I was unable to find the clip or the segment of the show, so I settled with this. This is where I stopped clicking, and I don't know, but anyway, here we go. The reality that we're all born against our will is something that occurred to me about 20 years ago and continues to bother me. I've decided to never have kids, and this is one of the many reasons why not. I don't think it's fair that I subject my kids to a world of shit when A, they have no say in it, and B, nobody is even trying to improve this world. There are many people who believe life should be challenging, and these people have a tendency of imposing this perspective onto the rest of the world. I sometimes imagine a situation, like a court of law or something, where I'm taking legal action against my parents. But the internal confliction there is that I feel that I'm unfairly singling my parents out. The question from that is it my fault that everybody else hasn't realized that existence, life, is forced? I'm not really singling my parents out, I'm simply the only one who realizes the unfairness of reality, which makes life bullshit. My parents knew what this world is like when they decided to start a family, which didn't stop them at all. Aside from the fact that the human body is vulnerable to both nature and everybody else in the world, this is why many insist that God exists. Despite that, which I've just mentioned, making God responsible for our terminal reality because He's the Creator, which is why Christianity needs Adam and Eve, their needed scapegoat. Religion is an institution that convinces people to avoid progress and problem solving. Something else that bothers me is that animals are slaughtered because we eat them. Not being a vegan, I often feel guilty about that. Being born against my will doesn't excuse me, and I'll never say it does, but the fact of the matter is that I was raised on meat. The problem is that the vegans only care about blame, not figuring out how to stop animal slaughter, which would be to discourage parents from feeding their children meat. End the market. It's economics, vegans. Most people prefer dogmatism and ideology instead of communication and thinking objectively about matters. Now, I wouldn't need to eat, or require an education, or have a source of income if I was never born. People rely on empty notions or ideals like positive thinking or the conformist expression, go with the flow, instead of communication, working together, and solving problems. People don't even know to learn genetics before reproducing. Matt mentioned victims of genetics. The problem is that psychosis is a birth defect. But psychopaths either don't think there's a problem with them, or they do know, but would never do anything to fix their own mindset if that was possible. While others are, what I would call, psychologically under the weather. And these people are miserable and want help, but in many cases can't get that help. The psychos not only don't want help, or would claim everybody else is insane, but try to procreate as much as possible to increase their numbers against everybody else. With genetics overall, though, the main problem is that nobody learns about genetics, and I think everybody who wants to become parents should learn genetics, if that's a possible way to prevent restrictive and/or limiting birth defects. I've gone to that political compass questionnaire years ago, which I guess is popular, and while I agree with the common sensible understanding, not opinion, that eugenics is grotesque and authoritarian, my philosophy is that a couple is immoral if they proceed to have a child upon warning that the child will be disabled. I won't say the couple shouldn't be allowed to, but their doing so is entirely on them for screwing their child over like that. Most people become parents for their own sake, while parenthood is mostly about the children.